So this week. I hated Toqger again. And I am not the only one, considering the responses from the other people I follow that are in the tokusatsu community that watch this show. They all thought it was horrendous. And I have to agree, because it focuses on Mio being stalked / harassed / hounded by this guy in a really gaudy suit and at least twice her age. There's a big age gap there that just increases the creepy of this guy prostrating his love for what looks like a teenager or early 20s girl who's clearly not that interested, tells him off immensely, repeatedly, and I forget sometimes that a woman is writing this series. And yeah, it was bad. The entire thing is to set up a date between Mio and Akira, with Mio proclaiming that Akira is her boyfriend to get the guy off her back, off the creepy train. And he follows them around on the date. So yeah, they actually have to stage a date to get him to go away, and it fails. It fails because, well, Akira is Akira. And the reason they chose Akira is because of Wagon, who is one of the more frustrating, enabling members of the cast to these idiot plots. And most of the idiot plots really are idiotic. I don't think Mio has had a good solo episode, which is really sad because the actress portraying her, Riria, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that because I'm bad with names. She's an excellent actor. She was Zero Black Blood. That was her. She was part of the main cast for that. She was awesome in that. And now she's shunted to fifth wheel in this series because pretty much every solo episode she has is bad. Well, you know what I mean. Solo focus episode. It addresses a bit on Tokati blatantly crushing on her with the overreactions to both the date and the crushing dude, wanting to protect Mio from the crushing dude because, let's just face it, he's the personification of the freaky stalker guy, and it's just, this was exceedingly frustrating to sit through, and I can't even verbalize this. Yeah. So they go through the date, and Akira is Akira. So he gets a lot of stuff wrong because, one, he's that stoic guy that loves cutesy little things, and, he's kind of socially awkward. Two, he's a monster from effectively another dimension. He doesn't know human social things. And of course, three, they were kids before this, so they really know the particulars of intimate relationships. You can't skip that phase and then expect to know what's going on. The most they know is from, one, Wagon, who's not helping things. Two, Kagura, who reads fashion magazines. Well, not fashion magazines. You know what I mean, kind of magazines. Women-oriented magazines that, this is really not where I'm going with it, but please understand you know what I mean. Those ones with the tabloid articles that say, fashion tips for getting someone, or the checklist for a perfect date, or something like that. And then you have Tokati, who is crushing on Mio and wants to both A, get the stalker off her back, and B, get her not to be in a relationship with Akira after this. Of course, Wagon makes things worse by the final trump card being a wedding ring. That does not make things better, it makes things worse. Because then with the stalking guy, he insists they kiss, and believe it or not, Akira knows how to kiss. I say believe it or not because the rest of the date really shows how he doesn't understand social minutiae, and he goes and kisses the stalking guy, who is now crushing on Akira. Ah! And of course, Akira is then stalking them, and now you're probably wondering why they don't just leave the station behind and this creepy guide to his creepiness. Well, there's a Shadow Kaijin in the area that they haven't killed yet, and they can't leave the station without it getting killed, because otherwise it'll become another Shadow Town. That's a fair reason to stick around. I mean, it's fair in the context of the show. There's no reason Mio couldn't have stayed on the train and out of the conflict and just had that guy hounding an empty train station because he can't see the train. Yeah. Really simple thing right there. Just wait in the train while the others deal with it. Now, it's not... Granted, that's kind of against her character because she just wants to get things over with. You know, she's direct, she's forceful, she's... It's pretty obvious the stalking guy was going simply on appearances and not, you know, some people are weird with relationships. But still, you could not dial up. You know, Japan has women-only train cars because there was an epidemic of single women on their own getting raped. Yeah. Now this is admittedly a show for younger audiences. I refuse to say kid show anymore because kid show gives the wrong implications. And so you can't really show that kind of thing. But this is the best way to imply it. Make this person such socially awkward and outcast that he draws up the creepiness, and the only way to get away from them is to show yourself with other people. People that don't want you near your object of affection. And so, I say it's going the exact wrong way. Well, not the exact wrong way. The worst thing they could have done was make him look like a pasty, socially awkward nerd. Essentially, Tokachi without, you know, cleaning himself up. No, Dakota looks nice. I'm saying step down from that. You know, the pasty, pale, greasy. I'm going to end up insulting myself because my next phrase was going to be overweight, bespectacled, and, you know, pretty much someone who doesn't care about how they look, and then obsessing over idols. And by idols, I mean in the famous sense of the term. You know, the popular models, singers. It's a catch-all phrase in Japan to refer to that kind of thing as an idol. So, definition disconnect. So, yeah, they were trying to imply this, but did it in the more PG... G-rated way with making him in a gaudy suit and the plain featureless bowl cut, which I think gets the point across. It's just that this is not something you should be showing in a kids show. See, I wouldn't said it. A show for younger audiences especially with characters that you just revealed used to be underage. They need an adult. And there are none around. But yeah, Tokati pretty much goes into blind rage as the episode wraps up, and deals with the Kaijin by stealing the Hyper Resha, which is becoming a trend, and the Hyper Resha, the Megazord, not the Hyper form. And he really hits it hard. I like that Wright's kind of being shoved to the background because worst character that's bringing down the show, but there was still something off about it I can't put my place on. Like, his rage at being rejected is what gave him the power to be awesome. I feel like there's a wrong moral being taught by this. Allergy season, sorry. Drive. It's continuing off with the Paint Roidmude. I think I got a pronunciation down for that. And Chaser. We get a few good fights with Chaser to start off the rivalry, in that Chaser knows what Drive's powers are and how he can destroy Roidmudes. Whereas, while the Roidmudes refer to him as the Grim Reaper, it's like we said before, it's the reset switch. And my theory last week held true in that they are gathering a certain number of Roidmudes to get a special number. They are number hunting. Damn you, Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Zell, however you pronounce it. What does Zell stand for? Don't watch it! I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge used that one. Yeah, and there's the number one, the 108 number thing again. Now, since all the perfectly evolved ones are still using similar symbology to what I saw as the 31 Primevals from Gal Gaigar, look up the show, it's awesome. I'm thinking they're trying to unite and connect to a greater number that's their true general or leader, that enough evolved numbers need to be around to manifest properly and possibly create another global freeze event. So now we got motive for the Roidmudes, which is always a good thing. Chaser, like I theorized last week, or stated, one or the other, is just there to reset the ones who do their job poorly in collecting their perfection, or are a redundancy in the mapping of them, because, as we saw last week, Paint had an understudy, except Paint already covers that field. So it's kind of redundant for one to be doing the same service as another, as that's not expanding out and evolving properly, and properly why Chase was on its case in the first place that brought him into conflict with Drive. Now, he hates Drive because, well, he's killing his kind, and while Chase is the outcast as the Grim Reaper of the unit, it's a Grim Reaper as in it culls it down to the soul of the Roidmudes, and then it can be given a new body to start over again. A cycle of reincarnation, so to speak. So it can travel a different path. Now, this is very interesting, as you don't usually see the Grim Reaper as facilitating a cycle. At least in fiction where the Grim Reaper, is a character or a force. Because it's usually, the Grim Reaper is responsible for killing them. They don't re-enter a cycle. They go to heaven, hell, purgatory, whichever afterlife you want to speak of. It's rare that the concept is used for the cycle of reincarnation. It does happen, but it's not as often as you would expect. So yeah, I'm still liking the theology for this. What I also liked is the backstory for Dream Vegas, which proves to us that the shift cars aren't just VIs, in other words, dumb AIs. They do have their own personalities, likes, interests. It might not be as developed as other sentients, but they are sentient, as Dream Vegas was was focused on the Paintroid Mudes because in the fight with the number 10 Roid Mude that eventually became the Paintroid Mude, its best friend, Dimension Cab, was injured and, like Kiriko, held a vendetta, was totally serious. And that also parallels it to Shinosuke with his partner that was injured in the same incident. So it's all tying together, and Shinosuke talks with and empathizes with Vegas in the episode to bond a little with the transformation trinkets he has to use to best B drive. And you know what? That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome to tie in these ancillary devices that are made to pretty much be toys into the show, giving them personality. And that is something we don't see very often. I mean, the memory gadgets in Double, those were intended to be devices for extended use in detective work for monsters. The Coundroids, yeah, they were superfluous, but they were scouts, they were gatherers for the cell metals, they were spy trinkets. They had their use as well. The Foodroids in 4s could have not been included. They could have cut them, and they could have had some of their devices, some standard devices, used instead, and nothing would have changed. The Play Monsters in Wizard. There was... Okay, yeah, there were scouts for the Phantoms because the protagonists and their allies could not sense Phantoms aside from Koyomi. So they had some ancillary use, but nothing mainstream that couldn't have just been altered power sets. They were... Admittedly, their combining gimmicks weren't that bad, and Golem... The Golem Play Monster's construction ability, that was nice, but most of the time they were completely pointless. Gaim did not have any droids around. It had the lock vehicles, which were useful because they provided a practical utilization of mobility and sometimes power armor. And this is bringing back the droids thing and combining with the transformation trinkets, which, considering the number of shift cars that will end up being around, I'm both loving it because I like the idea of AI tech, and I'm personally going to end up being disappointed because I know they're not going to spend enough time to give every shift card that comes into the narrative the same attention. Or if they do, it's only going to be one-off episodes. Or, 2-off arcs. It's not going to happen to everyone, and I'm kind of looking at that and seeing potential with what could have been a smaller cast of cars, I guess. I mean, you know me, you know the AI stuff, so any personality, even if it has to be talked about by intermediaries such as Krim, the Belt, I see as a good thing. I really liked that. And speaking of toyetic items, Drive gets a sword made of the same material that was used to repair Dimension Cab, which makes Dream Vegas pretty happy. Speaking of, I've gotten some comments the last few weeks consistency about my misnomering the terms of the series. I've been trying to keep a track on it this time because, well, it's finally sticking in, and that's the thing. First few episodes of the show, I'm going to get terminology wrong because we haven't gotten it enough, thought about it enough to really sink in, and I'm one of those people that it takes a bit longer to trying to use the right phrase. Because I suck at names. I really, really suck at names when I'm just doing it off the top of my head. You usually don't see it in my scripted episodes because I'm reading from a script. I write them by cross-referencing my notes, which I write them down properly, or try to note when I'm not, so I can look it up later, and I look it up online. So, most of the time, there aren't going to be any flaws in the scripted episodes. These are immediate thoughts. These are pretty much stream of consciousness, and I'm not blaming anyone that's commented on it like that. I'm just, letting it out there so you can understand. I'm not blaming you guys. I know I'd be irritated too if I was a big fan of something and someone just talking about it said the wrong thing. Again, stream of consciousness. I'm sorry, but that's just how it works for me. Anyways, Handle Sword. That's what was named in the subs. I'm iffy on this. On one hand, it looks like Old Red, aka Zero Ranger 5's, sword from Old Ranger and Power Ranger Zeo, with the big shield-like block on the front, which is the handle, and a nice grip so it's guarded. And then you've got the gimmick, in that it's a sword that swings wide, and you can alter how it swings and how you're shifting by turning the handle. Making it like you're a car. Because he's a car. Actually, it's not that bad. It's just when you say it out loud, it seems ridiculous. Because, swinging with it, you're pretty much... Okay, when you swing a sword, there are a few ways to do it. You're either doing it one-handed or two-handed, and it's really inconvenient to, after you finish, if in the middle of a swing, to just rotate the handle to change the angle you're attacking at. That just seems really out of place. And if you're finishing the swing and you do that, it's, again, really weird. And I'm amazed that Seiji Takaiwa can make it look so natural when in that. And I'm wondering how much they had to practice with that to make it doable. But the sudden changes in angle, I think, is a good thing, because then he can complete a swing, twist it, and then swing again really fast. Encouraging the thematic with drive of being, at least in type speed, the fastest base rider. Because his base form is, I think, close to or exceeding Axel Trial's speed. Granted, when he switches tires out of type speed for any of the tire changes or the coming form changes, he's going to be slower at average. Still fast, but closer to the average speed for the normal riders. I think Agito Shining has the exact same base speed when he's not doesn't have the type speed tire equipped. Well, he's still in type speed, but the speed base tire. I'm explaining this badly. But yeah, it's continuing that fast movements thematic for the form so far. So since Dream Vegas has his friend back, and Dimension Cat is used to save the people trapped in paintings, we also see the slots thing work, which Shinosuke, now that he's gained Vegas's trust and confidence, confidence as in actually, I think trust and confidence with the differing definition are synonymous. Anyways, since Dream Vegas pretty much gives him control to change the spin numbers, and he jackpots it to blast it with coins, and then uses it in the drive. And it really would be so much easier if they called it the Drive Saber. Why don't they call it the Drive Saber? I mean, yeah, Handled Saber is a bit on the nose, but it's an easy thematic. I mean, we've got the handle. Granted, we have the handle gun coming up. Door handle gun. And yeah, the finishing move is pretty much just the same as standard attacks, but empowered by the shift car. I could see it being worse. Honestly, I've not been a big fan of the drive finisher so far, but they're at least building good stories around the rider and his powers and the world, which is always a big bonus in my book. So yeah, I'm still liking Drive very much. It still has a very strong start, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, especially if I'm thinking they're doing the Gao Gaigar 31 Primevals thing, which I really hope they do. Also, we get Kiriko smiling because, you know, the Roid Mute that traumatized her in the global freeze gets killed. Like you do. Yeah, I guess it's more seeing them bond as partners because she's seeing more of what he's like and why he is, and he the same with her, so it's building their team dynamic, especially at the end where Kiriko agrees to his slothfulness and avoidance of work to get out of the related paperwork for this investigation, which I like the team bonding they're building. So still good characterization. The drive effects and finishes need work. Good lore building with the villains. When Brain is exasperated with the personalities of the other Roid Mutes, which is entertaining to me as he seems like the civilized one, and everybody else is an asshole. That is funny. I'm trying to think of anything else is relevant to... Oh, Dimension Cab. Its ability is to divide the cab wheel in half and create dimensional portals. So, say the sash is this way. No, wait, this way. So, this half of Drive's this half of Drive's body gets cut off and warped somewhere else, and it just drives around separately. It looks absolutely ridiculous. And yet it's pretty damn effective, because this allows him to not only create portals, he's thinking with portals. He can freely move through them and get in any place while his body is elsewhere. So it makes it pretty easy to steal the paint Roid Mute's kidnappee paintings, which, you know, the kidnappees were stuck as paintings at the time because science. So the power looks ridiculous, but the power is useful. I think I said something to the effect of, it's not useless, it's not pointless if it's used properly, or something to that effect. I'm forgetting my exact phrasing. So it's hilarious to look at. It is. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the dynamic between Drive and Chase, because they are the destroyers of the Roid Mutes, but one allows resurrection, one is the hand. So seeing the conflict between them should be interesting, because in a way, Chase is saving his species from itself. So it's kind of noble, even though we know that their end goals have to be somewhere in the range of malicious. I'm curious what's going to happen, so I think I'll leave that there. See you guys.